Alright, welcome back to my fifth and final ALA. So today I'm going to do a reflection on past work and the connection to the CPA exam blueprints and just kind of an overall recap of the work I've done this semester. So it's the end of an era. My time as an audit student is coming to a close. And I'm very grateful for everything that I've learned in this course. And while I am going into tax, I believe that the skills I learned throughout this course will make me a better accountant. So what do I think about a career in auditing? Despite the fact that I have a return offer to be a tax associate following the completion of my master's degree, I could very much see myself going to a career in auditing if things in my life change. I really enjoy the fact that auditing uses more traditional accounting skills. We work more with balance sheets, transactions, account balances, and we didn't really have to learn, as much case law or like specific legal parameters. And it was nice that I could use the high level of financial statement preparation that I have to my advantage in this course. And I just enjoy that we work with journal entries, and I do enjoy that a little bit more than the actual tax work. A lot of that is like calculations. And I did really get a respect for auditing that I had previously. I wasn't aware of the large amount of hands-on work that auditors must do in order to verify information, like in-person inventory counts and then frequent communication with current clients and then past auditors. So looking back at my first ALA, I think it was decent. There were certain issues, and if I were to go back and change it, for one, I didn't have as much auditing knowledge as I do now, so I would incorporate more of that into my presentation than I would have then. Also, the video was too long. I believe it was around 8 minutes, and the majority of my following ALAs were like 5 to 6 minutes. And I just wasn't as confident. Like, it was definitely dancing around things that I didn't know as well, and it's kind of apparent in the video, especially if you know that is my first one. I'm sure it was kind of easy to see that. It did have some strength. I think I did a good job including humor in the presentation, which I kind of stopped doing just for simplicity. And also to cut down on time, and like if there's a picture or something, it gave me less space to put in text. And I think my metaphor was actually the strongest, and even I wasn't the most confident in the reasoning and the actual auditing information, the overall metaphor was like pretty like one-to-one, and I think it was really good, and I'm proud of myself for thinking of it. And I included lots of images, like I said before, just for humor and also like aesthetics, and I thought they related to the information that I was discussing. And I think it was pretty clear and articulate for someone who I don't really like filming myself very often, so I think I did a pretty good job of staying clear and articulate throughout the presentation. So how does what I learned in the class, and what can I take from what I learned in the class to the four sections of audit? So the first area is ethics, professional responsibilities, and general principles. And I learned that no matter how much I or an employee rationalizes unethical behavior, it's still unethical, like we learned in the fraud triangle, and how people can often rationalize unethical behavior for various reasons, but it is still unethical. And it reaffirmed how important the tone at the top is for determining ethics of a workplace. This is something that was really apparent. I talked about this in, I think, my last ALA. This was in the documentary Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room, particularly about Jeff Skilling, who was at Enron, and his culture of social Darwinism and how he would encourage unethical behavior in order for people not to get fired because they had frequent performance reviews. So if you didn't do what you're told, you were getting out of there. So a lot of people probably played into or directly did unethical behavior and caused financial misstatement because of that. And I learned a lot about professional skepticism when I created my second ALA, which is about kind of how auditors have to keep professional skepticism just like you should be doing when you're reading information online. And the second area is assessing risk and developing a planned response. I really enjoyed all the work about the audit risk model. I felt like I really understood it. It was something that just made sense to me. I had a lot of fun creating my last ALA and making like the MMA risk model and that kind of analogy. I actually had a lot of fun with that. And I have a better understanding of how control risk and inherent risk work together, and how they also work with like substantive testing and how you need to perform more or less. And then I just think that this course overall showed me how to develop a proper response by assessing risk and seeing that what things are at risk, and then where I as an auditor would have to go and look for more information. So now to section 3 and 4. So area 3, performing further procedures and obtaining evidence. So I developed a good understanding of analytical procedures and ADA, and I learned a lot about how to tie financial statements to support and vice versa through the different assertions, like looking at the financial statements and then seeing, okay, they recorded all this revenue. Let's look at supporting documents, or like looking at the sales journal and then looking at bills of lading to see if these goods were actually shipped, and the 5 types of audit testing along with when and why they're used. And then I enjoyed a lot of the Excel work papers that were based around testing and sampling, like, and the different assertions, like they recorded revenue from a transaction at the end of the year, but it was an FOB destination and actually got there on January 2nd. all those exercises in Excel, and I'm looking forward to doing stuff like that in the final. And one thing I took in particular was ratio analysis, and how comparing a company's financial ratios with industry standards in previous years can serve as evidence of misstatement if things are like way grossly out of line, or if revenue is up 40% above average, but like selling, general, and administrative expenses are only up 15%, and things like that. And then the final area is forming conclusions and reporting. In my first ALA, I compared different audit opinions, and I used that as my analogy, and that really helped me understand it as I was making the ALA. And I think once I was done with it, I actually had a better understanding than I did going into it, just on the research that I had to do. And then I have a strong skill set in analysis and preparation of financial statements, and I believe the additional insight helped me understand more of whole financial reports than just the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow, like things like going concern, and other risks and things that the auditors found. So I think I'll be a more complete user of financial reporting, not just financial statements. And I found the ways of assessing going concern to be interesting, and how different companies use different ratios relating to decreases in revenue and things like that year over year. So where do I feel the most prepared for the CPA exam? I feel very prepared for Reg and FAR. Due to my tax internship, a large portion of Reg is tax and laws around tax that I have to learn. And in my free time, even though it's kind of a pain, I do like to keep up in reading specific case law, stuff like, it's like sales tax nexus and stuff, and things that may not be the most interesting, but you do have to keep up on them, and I'd rather be ahead of the curve than behind it. And then FAR, I have a strong background in the preparation and analysis of financial statements, and I feel that the material that I've learned from Intermediate 1, 2, and Advanced particularly have sufficiently prepared me for many of the aspects of FAR. So what do I need more preparation for? I think I'm a good test taker, but I do struggle with speed, and on the CPA exam, getting your time per question dialed down is very important, and I think a lot of the Becker study materials they focus on that, and they'll help me get that down to wasting unnecessary time and making sure I can get all the questions. That's my main concern on this test, is not necessarily the content, it's more, can I answer all the questions in time? And then the discipline sections, I don't know which one I'm going to do yet. While the tax background, I probably will do TCP. I might just not want to do that much tax studying, but I'm not as strong in things like AIS. So that's something that I'm going to have to think about, and that'll probably just stress me out a little bit as I'm preparing to take the CPA exam. So I just wanted to thank you. I had a great semester. I really learned audit. I really liked your class. I love your teaching methods. I like the hands-on kind of role-playing exercises and stuff. I think that really helped me understand it. And I think I'm going to take a lot of the information I learned in this class with me to my CPA exam and my career in accounting. Thank you so much.